This morning on it. Uh, Damien, you want to pull up the latest draft? As you saw in my email, uh, I I have no problem with the amendment. I would vote for it. I didn't want to sponsor it uh, to the extent the optics appeared that this was longer than the underlying bill. And so I'll let Senator Brock speak for himself, but I said I would sponsor it if he took out all the findings, which I have a lot of credibility on because I railed about findings in finance yesterday and I didn't like it. The House has come up with like 8 pages of finding on their broadband bill. So, anyhow, Damien can pull it up, and Senator Brock, if you want to jump in at any time, is fine.
Sure, and as I mentioned, as you know, I've said fine, done. That I'll drop the findings.
Okay, so we can see the bill without the findings.
Yep. So I've put together the bill without the findings, and my understanding is that Senator Sirotkin would sign on to the amendment if there were no findings, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so that's how the amendment appears, and I will pull that up now. Okay,
And
so
copy of the amendment with that change out to us yet?
Just emailed it to the committee a minute before I signed on, so it should be in your inboxes now.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
It is.
Excellent. So the changes that we have made here in the study language, there are a couple of small changes where we've added knowingly failing to disclose material facts, just to clarify that it is an intentional failure rather than an accidental failure to disclose a material fact. That was requested by legal aid. And then we've added on page 2 here, we've added subdivisions D, E, F, and G. So D provides that, and these were again requested by legal aid. So the first D is to identify potential actions for improving the department's ability to effectively communicate with claimants regarding reporting requirements, application procedures, and program rules. E is identify any additional resources, including staff, funding, technology, and training that may be necessary to improve claimants' ability to fully and accurately provide the department with required information. Just a reminder, when we say including, it implies but not limited to the listed actions. So these are just things that have been highlighted, but obviously the department could go beyond that. F is examine the extent to which overpayments flagged as fraud are attributable to intentional fraud as opposed to the claimant's mistake, the claimant's misunderstanding of unemployment insurance rules and requirements, or a miscommunication by a departmental staff person. And this again was requested by legal aid. If you'll remember their testimony, they're concerned that some of the overpayments flagged as fraud are attributable to something like a mistake, but then not appealed. And so they are marked as fraud permanently through misunderstanding or miscommunication. And then G is to identify the number of fraud determinations that are appealed and the percentage that are reversed following the appeal. And so this kind of goes along with F. It'll give us a better picture of the extent to which the fraud determinations that are being designated on some of the federal reports may be caused by something else and could identify a need for better process within the department or better communication, or the extent to which it is all actual fraud and there may need to be additional measures to either punish the fraud or deter it in the first place, which would probably be the most effective use of resources if you can prevent it from occurring in the first place. So this gives us a potentially better picture of what's actually occurring. So those are the changes with respect to the fraud. There are also changes in subdivision 2 here with respect to the overpayments of unemployment insurance benefits that were requested by legal aid, and they are found in C, where we've added the words including hiring additional staff and making improvements to technology and training. And so that these would go to potential actions for improving the department's ability to prevent, reduce, and collect overpayments. And they also requested the language on lines 14 and through 16, which would be identifying instances in which an individual's liability for an overpayment could potentially be reduced or waived, such as when the claimant is not at fault or the overpayment results from a mistake or lack of understanding regarding the unemployment insurance rules. Again, these are just examples, but not a limiting list here. Those were the two changes there, except, and then the final changes in B on line 21, where they've added or asked that we add in representatives of claimants, which I expect would be legal aid and other entities like legal aid that assist claimants who are hung up in the claims process on an appeal or something like that, where they need legal assistance to sort of navigate the landscape. And those are the changes to the study. The other two changes here we discussed in committee yesterday. Section 12 would amend the due date for the joint report from the Attorney General and the Commissioner of Labor regarding their joint enforcement. I have omitted the remainder of this section just in the interests of brevity. But the remainder asks for statistics such as number of misclassification cases, how many are referred, how many investigations result in the imposition of penalties, and so forth. And so it gives us a better sense of how the joint enforcement process that we enacted last biennium is actually functioning. And then section 13 amends a report due from the Employee Misclassification Task Force. And again, moves that date to November 15th, 2021. So it corresponds with the report on fraud. And this is a report on ways to improve the effectiveness and efficiency of the system of joint enforcement. After kind of looking at how it functions in government from the more holistic perspective of the Employee Misclassification Task Force, which includes the heads of multiple state agencies and departments, including financial regulation and tax and administration, who also have a role in the enforcement of the misclassification laws, whether it's through debarment or possibly contracting with entities and wanting to know if the entity has been debarred. So that will give us a sense of potential statutory changes that the executive branch would recommend with respect to that joint enforcement process from last biennium. And those are the changes.
Damien, what was the Josh Diamond yesterday referenced the report due in 2024?
Mm-hmm.
Which one is that?
There is a report due from the Attorney General and the Commissioner of Labor in 2024 that is very like the report in section 12. And it's basically the report we're changing the due date for in section 12 can be thought of as an interim report. And then the 2024 report is the final report, because That's coming up shortly before, I believe the repeal is in 2026. So the idea is that the legislature could get that report and then determine whether to extend the sunset or allow the sunset to occur on that joint enforcement process.
Does anyone have any questions for Damien? We're scheduled to have at 10 o'clock, which is now, Cameron Wood join us to make sure that the Department of Labor is okay with this language at this point. I see Michael Harrington has entered the waiting room. Good morning, Commissioner. Your timing is impeccable. We have just gone through the latest version of Senator Brock and my amendment. And how can we get that to you unless you have it already? I don't think you have this one. It essentially, I think, is what you've seen, but we've eliminated all the findings for brevity's sake. And
Damien, I bet, could email it to him in a heartbeat.
yeah, could Damien or Nathan, can you email that?
I'm doing that right now.
We'll give him a minute or two just to read it. It's a few pages long.
Great, thank you. As soon as I get it, I'll take a look.
Okay, I just sent that to you, Commissioner.
All of this is dependent on whether the internet works the way it's supposed to.
I mean, you still haven't gotten it yet?
Not yet. I'll just refresh 1 sec here.
It is also on the website.
Nathan, if you want to, you can put the link in the chat as well. And then I can pull it up on the web as well.
Or we could share it, we could put it on the screen too. Any luck so far, Commissioner?
Not
No,
yet.
That's fine. Why don't we just take a 5-minute break so folks can stretch their legs, and you'll read it and take the time and come back in 5 minutes. You could work with Damien and Nathan to make sure you get a copy.
Sounds good.
Thank
Thank you.
We could stay on this. Let's go offline.